Welcome back, everybody. So, is anyone feeling brave enough to share what's important for them to be here today? Anybody else who doesn't want to share on camera, we'd love to capture that in the chat as well. If there's something you'd like to share, what's important about you being here today? What did you learn from someone else? Did you have something in common? Raise your hand if you'd like to share, and I will give you a chance to share with the screen. So just use your little reactions with your hand raised and it'll pop you up so I can see you. Who's feeling brave? I'm going to talk about why it's important for me, but you're going to hear a lot from me. I want to hear from you. Eduardo.
Yeah, can you hear me? Good
Yeah.
morning, good
Yeah. Good
afternoon, good
morning.
evening to everyone. So I'll feel brave. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm feeling brave, but I'm just going to say yes anyways. My activator helps me with that. So what I learned, I got to meet someone who is in international virtual business training, and that was a mouthful. And it was really neat because she's not a strengths coach, but I just said, well, why don't the two of us connect? And I get to, be an expert or become closer to being an expert at what she does, and then I can share with her a little bit about my very limited strengths experience from 2018. And I'm looking forward to that. That's kind of one of the reasons I joined here, because who knows what the future of strengths is, whether you're a coach or not, or whether you're certified, whether you're just starting. So that's kind of what I'm excited about.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Cheryl.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and be brave. There's
Yay.
actually two main reasons. As Joe knows, and many of you know, I'm retired, so I'm not actively coaching one-on-one, but I do a lot to support other coaches. So I'm here to support Joe. I've known her for a long time, and she probably has more passion for strengths than anybody I know. And I also think it's a really good idea to have this new group of coaches, a network, a resource that's tied to Gallup. You know, we're all certified and understand strengths, but well, we're connected to Gallup, but not tied to Gallup. I think that would be the way to do it. I like having more resources out there, people doing different things. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing, Cheryl. Sally, you go, and then Pam, and then we're going to move on. So if you have anything else to share, we'll put that in the chat. But Sally, please.
Yeah, I'll go real quick. I was partnered up with Parker King, and both of us are presenters as part of the forum. So it was exciting to talk to another presenter. We're both presenting on topics that are a little not talked about in the business setting very frequently. So we have neurodiversity and sobriety. So it's a little bit different angle on the use of strengths. And so we're both very excited to be part of this forum. So thanks for having us, Joe.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sally. And Pam.
So, Joe, I was in a breakout room with myself, but that's okay. You know what? I did want to say though, why I like to be here is because I love to be on the cutting edge of things. Like I really enjoy connecting with people and learning new things so that I can help other people. So that's one of my exciting parts of today.
So thank you so much for being here, everybody. Thank you so much. If you have anything else you want to share, please jump in the chat. You guys keep that conversation going in the chat. I will not be distracted by it, but if there's something we need to address, I'm sure Jen will let me know, but feel free to chat amongst yourselves in there. And thank you for being here today. So what I love about this is that we have people from Australia, New Zealand, US, Canada, Mexico, Brazil, England, Switzerland, Denmark, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Japan, all registered to be here. So we are representing 13 countries around the world, which I have to say, I'm pretty excited to have that kind of representation for a first time ever event. I really am so grateful to those of you who have invested your time, your money, your energy, your giving and volunteering for this to work. This has been such a beautiful co-op event so far, and I really look forward to this truly being the first one, but definitely not the last one. But the concept here is really, it's the future of strength. And the future of strengths comes from my passion around natural foresight, which I'll talk about in a little bit at some point, but it's really about mapping our futures. And I really want to make sure that we're intentional about what we're doing. And I'm starting to lean a lot more in. Many of you know me for being a branding coach and a messaging coach for other coaches. I really love to show up as a strategic partner for other coaches. but I'm going to start leaning a lot into building community because what I'm truly passionate about is teaching strengths. For me, it is so important that we get this language out there. And the concept is to connect people with similar interests through the language of strengths. So we want to raise curiosity instead of reinforcing bias. We want to build connections instead of staying in our silos. And we really want to start deepening understanding so we can start to take things less personally, really celebrate that pillar of the four agreements and recognize the positive intention that most people lead with, even if it isn't how we would do it. I often say we're all walking into the same room, just through a different door, but it doesn't necessarily matter as long as we all get to the room, right? So there's no I in team, but there is a me, and we need to start with the me's to build the strongest we's. So I'm actually going to share a little bit about me first, and then we're going to talk about says a we. So there's my top 10. And here's just a few photos of people I managed to run into this summer, meeting strengths coaches as we traveled through 13 different states around the summer. And I had my strategic, my arranger, and my futuristic, which you can't see, but it's at number 12 and dominant. They got locked in the trunk this summer. I pulled out my connectedness and my adaptability, my other first supporting talent, and they got to be in the driver and the co-pilot seat, which led me to follow the breadcrumbs this summer and see where things would lead. And so what that has led me to do is, most of you know that I've been living in Mexico for the last 2.5 years. I've been outside the US for 14 years, and I'm coming back to the States, and I'm going to be living in Michigan, and we will be back by the end of the year. So I am so excited about what possibilities could possibly come from there. So, and there's a lot of coaches I didn't get to put in the pictures because, as I mentioned to Jen, please take some screenshots occasionally because I am terrible at remembering to take pictures of things. So Jenna Cardona is not there, and Nora Bannon, who's here today, is not in there. We did a beautiful session at Western Michigan. John Augusto left before we took pictures at the brunch. And Eduardo, you got to meet on the camera. I'm actually sitting in his house right now, but I don't have a picture of him, even though I've been spending the last 10 days with him. So I got my start back in 2002. I was in 2003, but I think I'm maybe in 2002. And Heather Gupta, who is here today and will be speaking this morning as well, was the person who really got me started down this path. I am so excited that they are here to share with us today. But I was part of an organization that started with Gallup, and Heather was part of that initial team and handed me a book and said, here, take this test. Let me know what you think. And so I took Now Discover Your Strengths. I took the test and I was like, oh my gosh, it was like I got a manual for like a user's manual for myself. It was just, it had such an impact on me. And I was always kind of a person people came to it for advice. And so I started actually, when people would come to me, I would say, here, read this book, take this test, let's talk. Here, read this book, take this test, let's talk. It just became my way of really making sure I was helping people in the way that they most needed to be helped. It's something that just naturally made sense to me. And when Heather left the company, I was graciously given most of the Gallup materials, and I get a call one day from the communications department. The VP of communications says, hey, we want to do this for our team. And I went, okay. And she goes, and we were told that you were the person to do this for us. And I went, okay. Now, mind you, I was an executive admin for Kentucky Fried Chicken, the director of operations. Nothing to do with HR, nothing to do with communications, that should not with learning and development. I said, sure, I can teach you what to do. No big deal. And so I went home and voraciously read those first 30 pages of Now Discover Your Strengths. I took probably 10 pages of notes on my yellow legal pad. And I went in the next day talking to them and just verbally vomited like everything I knew about that presentation to them, speaking incredibly fast, probably like I am now. And they said, oh, never mind. We can't do this. You need to do this for us. Oh, okay. And I said, well, when is it? And they said, Monday. And I went, it's Wednesday. And they said, yeah, but we're going to fly you to Martha's Vineyard and we're going to have it. I was like, wait, what? What? So fast forward, we get there, and their supervisor, the chief communications officer of Yum at the time, Jonathan Blum, says, I don't really get this. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, my team wants to do it, so I want to give my team what they want. But honestly, these are just 5 words on a piece of paper. And he says this in front of the 11 global VPs of Yum brands at the very beginning of our session. And I said, okay, um, well, let me do this for you. And I remember he had input. That is the one talent of his I remember. And I said, you probably have a filing cabinet. I knew this is back in 2003 or four. So you probably have a filing cabinet with all kinds of resources and things and pieces of information you want to share. And I just started doing what I do around talent. And he puts his hand up and he goes, stop. I said, I'm so sorry. Did I offend you? And he said, no, that was creepy. Move on, focus on somebody else, but interesting. And he actually became my biggest champion. And so I ended up being a loaned executive. I moved into a different position at Yum, and Strengths with me was born in that moment. So I informally did Strengths for many years with people until I became certified as one of the first Spanish speaking coaches in the first Spanish certification group in Mexico City in 2015. And I have been certified ever since. And that was how I got to where I am today. And that brings me to the we's. So we are here today, as I mentioned, from 13 countries. And I asked all of you to share some words. And so many of you filled out the form to what is the word or words that come to your mind when you think of community? And these are the words you guys came up with. And I love it. Connection and support. That to me is what community means. I am trying to rebuild the village. I miss the village. I miss the village personally. I miss the village in a big way, in a macro way, and I miss it in a micro way. And because these are words that I use so frequently, these words are words I also use because these are 34 words that unite 8 billion people, and I want to teach them. I love coaching, but I really want to teach so that we can make the most of this amazing tool. And as I mentioned, community is really my biggest focus and driver right now to bring back this village through the language. I want to power communities forward, and whether that's a team that's a pre-formed community or it's communities like us, people who have similar interests and similar passions, but maybe we don't impact each other on a daily basis. But I want to power us forward by recognizing that each individual is unique and that difference is what makes us stronger. And as Gallup says, that difference is an advantage. And that way we can positively propel society forward in a successful and sustainable way that lives well beyond you or me. That is what moves me. And then we did our talent. So I got to pull our talents in. Now I know those of you who attended the community building workshop that we had just before this, you know what the answer to this is, but who knows what our number one talent is? There's a little bit of a hint. And you know it because you just saw the 10 talents in our breakup rooms. So it's learner. And I love that learner is our number one talent as a community. I also think it's funny that it's my number one supporting talent, but not dominant. This is not in my top 10, but it is for 62 of you who have registered here today. It is one of your talents in your top 10. And I love that. And our number two talent is connectedness. And connectedness is honestly, probably connectedness and maximizer are my biggest motivators, my purpose talents, the ones that give me meaning for why I want to do what I do. Obviously, communication is a driving factor because I see this as a language that we all need to speak. But I think just knowing that everybody has potential, and my vision is that we live in a world where talents aren't wasted, potential is realized, and happiness is contagious. Right? That's the world I want to live in. And I think Strengths can help us do that. So I'm going to put this up on my screen. I don't know how well you guys can see this, but I just wanted to give you a breakdown. If you didn't make it to our community building workshop, that is what we look like as a community. And what I love is the difference between the top 5 and the top 10. So feel free to share your observations or comments or thoughts in the chat around what you're seeing on the screen right now. But if we look at top 5, 41 people have learner. But when we expand that to our top 10, that number jumps to 62 people. But what I really love is when we start to look down a little bit lower, where there's competition with just one person in the top 5, but 7 if we go to the top 10. And so this is a big reason that I really push for the full 34 when possible with people, because the top 5 is just the tip of the iceberg, right? And we all use it. We're coaches. We use that iceberg, what you can see and when you can't see what's underneath, right? The water, but what's underneath there is sustaining us. And it's so important to bring those voices to the table as well. And so anytime I can, I really try to push the 34. Now, because I know financially that can be a challenge for other people, one of the things you might want to know is we have established Practical Strengths as an LLC. And again, I'll talk about that in a little bit, but we're also doing our best by next year to establish a nonprofit for Practical Strengths as well. That nonprofit will be focused principally on um, setting supporting people for the cost of the assessment to make sure the assessment is more affordable and accessible. So we're going to oh, the word is totally falling out of my brain at the moment for communication. Come back. Um, but anyway, to help people that are in economically challenged or underserved communities that don't normally have access, we're going to make sure that coaches that are working with projects in important spaces there have access to codes as needed. So coaches will be able to donate their codes. We'll be able to take financial donations, and that will be the main focus of that organization as a nonprofit. And here's my connectedness again. We are more alike than we are different. And what I love is the other thing I asked everybody in the community, what has strengths meant to you personally? Now, I know you can't read all of this. You'll get to see it and read it later. I will share all of these answers out with you. But to just highlight a couple of, different themes that come up. It's given me a language. It's a way to understand myself and articulate my contributions. It's given me the word and insight to do what I'm naturally right to do, right? It's this language that allows us to explain to people why we do what we do and to also appreciate how we do things when it's not as easy for everybody else. And like I said, when I first took it, it was like getting a user's manual for myself. So, right, we all have this sense of that. And then there's also, right, knowing my strengths has helped me understand where I thrive naturally and create partnerships where I don't. It's knowing the difference that's powerful, said by Jennifer Vansel. Understanding why I am the way I am, as well as understanding why people act the way they do. And then seeing and learning about my talent themes helps me practice self-compassion. I love that, self-compassion, for when I don't meet my goals or expectations. And it also helps others celebrate their accomplishments proudly when I model attributing my successes to my top talents. Right. So this way of seeing others and seeing ourselves and finding those partnerships and recognizing that what we do right is great and accepting that when it's not easy for us, that's okay too. And then finally, what it's meant to you is it's changed my life. It's given me permission to be my authentic self. David Kubaki, Marcel Krugel. To me, it is to find your essence and to operate from a place of authenticity, right? So that ability to be authentic, to be true to you. My foundational program is called The Language of You. The thing I hear more often than anything else from people who finish that Language of You program is, I finally feel like I have to be me. How incredibly liberating is that to finally feel that who you are is not just okay, but beautiful, and to really value that about yourself, because it's not just about self-awareness, it's about self-appreciation, and that's where our confidence will naturally build. Now, the following question that had to do with strengths is I asked, what could strengths mean for the world? Right? What do you think it's about doing? What impact could we have? How would we start mapping our own future of strengths? So, from the USA, I think in a time when folks look first at what is different and go their separate ways, strengths can bring people together to show both how we are the same and how we are different. And from Australia, a way to positively transform society by working with individuals, teams, and organizations to discover, develop, and deploy their unique talents. And then in a worldview, strengths would help us appreciate each other's unique value and contribution to society as a whole, right? How beautiful is that, that we're suddenly appreciating, creating this compassion, this way of communicating with others. Whoops. Okay. It can be a common neutral language, as I said, used to understand each other. Another person, a common language to enhance communication and understanding. Another language, another way to communicate, connect, and understand each other, right? I love that so many people see this as a language, but to do that, we have to teach what strengths means. We can't just coach around it. We need to also teach it. And then finally, an asset-based mindset rather than a deficit one, celebrating differences instead of lamenting them, from Jennifer Van. Think it would I think if we understand each other better through strengths and used each other's strengths to help make the world a better place and to work more cohesively, the world would be a better place. Working to start a movement, a strengths movement in Delaware, a small but mighty state could build a stronger community by speaking the common language of strengths. I know that came from David because I know he's the one building that in Delaware. And yes, I'm going to talk a little bit about Rhode Island tomorrow, but absolutely, there are so many examples of how this really can have such an exponential impact. But of course, none of this would be possible without many of our sponsors, without people who have invested in this idea, in me, in practical strengths. And so Crystal, Sharon, Penny, Liz all jumped in and they were willing to help, becoming a lifetime member of Practical Strengths, investing in the idea, investing in the belief. We had an anonymous donor who graciously donated as a sponsor so that we could offer scholarships. And while we had originally thought 10 scholarships, we ended up admitting 25 people in so that they could enjoy it. We left it open for 24 hours. So we have 25 people who are here based on the gracious donation from a lovely person. We have Western Michigan University, Murray Tate College. Pam Besser was leading the charge there, and I'm going to call her out because she's been leading that charge, and I could not be more grateful. Children's Paradise Montessori School is the first strengths-based school in the Philippines. They also have contributed to this. And then we also have the International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners and Infused Innovations, who have been our partners not only on this forum, but they're also doing AI sessions for coaches. We're doing a series that will pick back up in September once a month. We get personal AI coaching from AI experts on how to help us improve our personal development and coaching with those tools so that we can be ahead of the curve instead of behind it. And then finally, and I know Rebecca's also here, I am so excited because as we're building Practical Strengths, we are building global partnerships. Rebecca Rios has jumped in as our first ever strategic global partner. She is located in Brazil. She first came on board with Practical Strengths as someone who is translating the books into Portuguese. We also have Angelina's here. Her family, they had been translating the books into Mandarin. I also have another partner in Saudi Arabia. So the books are coming out. And it was honestly the translation of those books that really led to what Practical Strengths could be. And so Rebecca is an amazing person. She's a founder of her own business, Palmer Desenvolvimiento. Say that with a Spanish accent, not a Portuguese one. And she is a huge strengths enthusiast. She is a genius when it comes to strengths. She's doing she will be doing a session on families. She's doing that later today. She's going to be staying up at ungodly hours for herself in Brazil in order to present very late this evening on what is right with our children. She believes deeply in the power of leveraging strengths for individual development, relationship, and especially education. She is a former educator with over 15 years of classroom and school administration experience. She's Gallup certified, and she is also the Gallup GGSC leader in Portuguese. And again, like I mentioned, she's also the translator for our books. She has a ton of passion. And if you had been in a little bit of the lounge, she came in just before the session, and we really are a good yin yang. So she's been willing to jump in and do this, and I couldn't be more grateful for her partnership. But what's beautiful about these languages coming on is I don't know how much you guys know, but there are many languages, and I haven't counted. I think there's probably 20 or a few more languages that you can actually take your assessment in, but you can actually only get your results in English. And Mandarin is one of those. Arabic is one of those. And so as someone who wants to take the assessment, if you're not bilingual, you can't understand your results, or you have to find a bilingual coach to help you. So the Practical Strengths books being translated they're going to be some of the only resources available for people to understand their strengths in these languages. And so we're always looking for more strategic partners. We're going to be looking for more global partnerships, which if anybody's ever interested, feel free to reach out. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I am super grateful for Rebecca jumping in and believing in this and wanting to be a part. And then, as I mentioned, the Strengths, Practical Strengths LLC was finally formed. We have had a community membership group that has been going strong for a year and a half. Um, we do at least 2 webinars a month. Usually, I will say this summer has been a little behind because of the forum and what we're doing, but we're going to be picking up strong as soon as this forum is over. But the community gets free workshops every month to bring people together from different levels, different facets of life. So whether you are a new coach, a seasoned coach, or someone who's just interested in their own personal development, there is something for everyone at this community. And you can join for as little as $10 a month to do that. So anybody who is here registered that isn't already a member, by registering for forum, you actually receive a 3-month trial. But if you want to jump in before your 3-month trial is up, no worries. We'll be following up with the forum afterward. You can see the books at the bottom. Again, it might be a little small on your screen to see. Yeah, the parenting, career success, and communication styles books are out currently. And if all goes wrong, oh my gosh, that's a Friday 13th kind of thing to say. If everything goes right, um, we will actually have 3 more coming out very soon. I am working on them, but that is one of the things that you support as a community. When you make a monthly payment or you make your annual payment, you can save a lot of money and get the top tier membership if you want to make an annual payment for just $500. But those are the things that sustain me and keep me going so I can keep writing these books. And there are going to be 12 of them before it's all said and done. But the next ones to come out will be on relationships, conflict management, and a 2.0 version of parenting, which would be family and education. So it's going to have a broader impact and range. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for those of you who have been early adopters. Thank you for those who have been guinea pigs. Thank you to all of you who have believed in what this is and will continue to help us grow. My maximizer says I don't need 1 million followers. I need 100 of you who are just as passionate as I am so we can build something incredible and we can be the pebbles and we can start the ripples. I envision this as concentric circles of support consistently growing and building our impact. So thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to stop for a second. We do have just a couple minutes left. We have a break before we go in. But if anybody has any questions or any comments they would like to share, we have a couple of minutes before we have a soft break and our first session start. I'll open it to you and thank you.
Good morning, Joe. I have a question. So for those of us who
Yeah.
want to post on social media, what hashtag do you want us to use?
Ooh, that's a fantastic question. I am working on, so hashtag practical strengths, hashtag be the pebble, hashtag start the ripple. And if you're doing anything with the forum, if you're sharing anything on the forum, it's hashtag FOS Forum 2024. And I think I see Jen writing, so I'm hoping she's getting those in there for you so you can take care of that. Thank you so much for asking. Thanks, Sherry. I appreciate that.